Hello, my name is John Maul. I'm a session musician and composer and have made a living from playing the piano for nearly 30 years now. My training at the Royal Academy of Music in London prepared me for many of the musical challenges that I've been faced with over the years. I'd like to share with you some of the approaches I use for learning new piano pieces, and I hope you'll find them useful too. We're going to be focusing on the beginner's music selection that appears in your pull-out section of Pianist magazine. Before we get started though, there's a few general points I'd like to cover. In case you haven't thought about it, your seating position is quite important. You should sit at the center of the keyboard with middle D and E directly in front of you, at a comfortable distance from the keyboard so that your hands can rest on the keys. Your elbows should be able to move freely and not rest against your torso, and your upper arm may be slightly angled. If you have an adjustable stool, make sure that the forearms are horizontal to the ground. Rest your fingers on the keys with your hands cupped as if holding a tennis ball. And for the most part, it's your fingers that are going to be doing the work. So when pressing a key, use the pivotal joint in your knuckle to get the leverage. Fingering is very important. You should spend time thinking about which fingers to use on each of the sections of music. In fact, working out your own fingerings is a good thing to do. A piano player shouldn't just go with what might be on the page. Each hand is different, and each publisher usually offers you different fingering to the next. So if you prefer an alternative fingering, that's fine, so long as you've considered it carefully. Pencil those finger numbers on the score if you need to remind yourself which fingers to use. Now with practice, your muscle memory will gradually take over and you won't have to think about the fingering anymore. That's why it's so important to stick with the fingering you've chosen and not keep changing it every time you play the same piece. When it comes to deciding for how long to practice, this of course is very much up to the individual. I would say, however, try not to go on for any longer than an hour without having a break. It's important to clear the head and give your fingers and your brain a rest. Effective practicing is vital, of course, for learning new pieces. Hand-separate practice is always a good start. Begin at a slower pace and then speed up. Listen and analyze where those problems may appear in your performance. Don't just ignore them. It might be a trill or a point where the hand jumps. If so, stop, isolate this section and find a method to overcome the difficulty. But don't just keep playing from the beginning to the end of the song in the hope that the problem will sort itself out, because it won't. Regards using a metronome for practice, you'll find that teachers have many varied views on this. I personally think it's a good thing, especially for other musical disciplines such as jazz or pop. These genres often require a constant pulse or a beat, so it helps to have that metronomic awareness. However, classical styles of music often have more rhythmic freedom and they'll pull the pulse about. It's a good and a musical thing to do. But such tempo adjustments mustn't be determined by technical difficulties. They should be purely musical ones. Incidentally, metronomes are normally set by BPMs, that's beat per minute. Often a corresponding Italian musical term can be found. Allegro might be anywhere between 120 and 170 beats per minute, for example. Finally, interpretation is everything. It's why I have 2 or more recordings in the same piece played by different artists in my CD collection. Occasionally, I may prefer to play a piece of music with a different approach to how I may have heard it. In my opinion, that's absolutely fine. So the recording you'll find on the CD isn't necessarily the version for you. The composer provides us with the musical notation and helpful markings such as phrasing, dynamics, and on how to play the music. Now it's over to us to interpret the meaning of these comments and really listen to ourselves play. So have fun, enjoy the sheer pleasure of playing the piano.